Veteran, hosted by Brandy Pet.
I nabbed myself. Oops. Well, welcome, everybody. It's me, Brandy P, with the Yes I Am the Veteran podcast. I hope everybody's doing well. And I know it's been a pretty busy week here. We're getting ready for the Dining Out Gala, which will be Saturday. We have not only sold out, but we're 30 tickets over. I don't know how that happened, but it'll be a great event, and we're looking forward to seeing everyone there. And I just finished helping, well, mostly just watching the grenade be painted OD green, so I'm pretty excited about that. And I will go ahead and introduce our guest tonight. But before I do, I don't know if like anyone is that's watched our podcast over the years. History is very important to our podcast, and really telling stories that aren't told. So I think that it's really important that we are doing this today. And I wanted to introduce a very special young lady who is not only a founder of the Women's World War II Memorial nonprofit foundation nonprofit, but she's doing a bunch of amazing things. So I'm going to bring her onto the stage now, Miss Raya Kinney. Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Brandy?
I'm here.
Busy week.
Oh yes, so much metal, so much metal.
But you're so good at it.
Well, I'm still learning. I'm going to say I'm like a full apprentice across bladesmithing, and now I'm a welding apprentice. It's definitely interesting. I'm learning a lot of new stuff, and I have a very much a newfound respect for the women that went before us, especially because, I mean, having to do that for 12 to 14 hours a day, like in the crazy hot condition, like that's just something else. But I would love for you to introduce yourself so we can know a little bit about you.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Raya Kinney. I am 23 years old. I just graduated from college last year, and I am the founder and CEO of the World War II Women's Memorial Foundation. And we're working on getting a memorial built to the over 18 million civilian women who stepped into the workforce for the first time in the 1940s to support our country and the troops abroad, and drastically changed the way that the workforce looked and the way that the workforce operates to this day. And I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for hosting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's about, is supporting each other and, really getting information out there. And that's why I'm very fortunate for this podcast, because we get to do that in many different ways. And sometimes, like when you embark on a project, you really never know where it's going to lead.
True.
And so, and you yourself, like you started on a project in the 5th grade that is now something that is all the way in Capitol Hill being talked about. Did you want to talk a little bit about what happened in that project?
Sure thing. Yeah, it's sort of a crazy story because it's been over 13 years now, which saying that I feel old, which is funny because I'm not. But this originally began as a 5th grade school project. My social studies teacher assigned it to me, and she slid this assignment sheet across the table to me, and it was design a model monument to someone or something that has yet to be recognized, memorialized in Washington, D.C. And at the time, I was 10 years old, so I had just watched the iconic movie A League of Their Own with Tom Hanks about the women baseball players who stepped up to the plate, so to speak, during the war and formed the first women's leagues. And I just thought they were so cool, running around the bases in like these tiny skirts and playing the game that the men off fighting could no longer play, and keeping America entertained in the meanwhile. And so I knew I wanted to do something with the baseball players. So that's when I started sort of delving into my research to figure out more. And that's when I learned about the much larger number of women who were doing similar things in over 80 plus new industries for the first time. And I was like, great, let's build this model monument to the Rosie the Riveters. And that, not only were in factories, but also were driving the taxi cabs, becoming butchers, becoming farmers, all of these different jobs. And I crafted up this little model monument for my social studies teacher with fake grass, like wooden dowels. There it is. And on each side of the pillars, I had the names of the industries etched in, what would be etched, that would be the industries that the women were occupying for the first time. And I showed it to my teacher, and she kind of laughs, and she's like, you should try to get this built in real life. And the naivety of 10-year-old me, I said, yeah, okay, great plan.
Easy.
And so I embarked on this journey, and it's sort of just been a lot of shots in the dark. I started the only way 10-year-old me knew how, which was to email every woman in Congress that I could and tell them my idea. And I will say I did not hear back from many of them. They're really only required to respond to their constituents, and I was not one, being a DC resident myself. But I kept trying and getting word out there, and eventually something stuck, which as it does, and some lovely folks from the Belmont Paul Women's Equality National Monument reached out to me on the year of the 100th anniversary celebration of the National Park Service. And they were like, hey, Raya, we love your little model. I think you should come and display it for us. And that is really what skyrocketed the project into what it's become, because there I had the opportunity to talk to members of the National Park Service. And one of them came up and said, your model is exactly what we look for national monuments. You should contact your DC representative, Eleanor Holmes Norton, and see if she'd be willing to listen to your idea. And I did. And Representative Norton said, I love this. This is fabulous. We absolutely should do this. And agreed to draft up legislation, which eventually then got passed years later. But it was a fun lift. It was fun to do.
That's pretty amazing that you were able to really have so many amazing experiences on your way to doing this project. And the fact that your teacher was supportive, and she really encouraged you to do that. And I know you've met some amazing people along the way. And I know one of my favorite people, May Cryer, she also started writing to you as well. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. I don't remember our first contact. I think I wrote her a letter. And I told her, hey, I read about you on the news. I love all of the work that you're doing to support Rosies such as yourself, and this is my idea. And she wrote back to me. And what formed was one of the most beautiful friendships I have to date. She is just a firecracker of a woman. I know, Brandy, you know her and love her as much as I do. She just doesn't take no for an answer. And so we've been tight friends for many years. And she has been one of the strongest, if not the strongest, supporter of this project. She always sets a brilliant example of how to handle it when things aren't going your way or when things are tough, just to keep fighting. She has this thing she does, she does the muscle, and she's like, power up. And every time there's any sort of setback in this project, it's May that sort of is the light at the end of the tunnel, and is a main force for keeping me going on why this memorial matters and why these women deserve this recognition and that their history be preserved for forever.
Yeah, absolutely. What I thought was really interesting, and something that I learned in college, is that, in 1941, there was 99% male workforce to 1% female. And within a year, it was the opposite. If I remember correctly, the very first childcare center in the United States was the foundation for the Rosie the Riveter Trust. And it actually was once a daycare. Yes. That's what, like, the Rosies would take their children and that was something that they'd never heard of. Mm-hmm. Like, childcare like that didn't really exist back then, but they had to work 24-hour operations. So they had to be able to have someone look after their children. But I mean, 16 to 18 million women like stepped up during that time. Mm-hmm. And I know for me, it was a little sad when I heard May talk about when she went into the World War II Memorial, and she wanted to see anything about like the Rosies, but there was only a very small plaque like in the corner that was an area that couldn't be seen. And so I think that you doing this project and really like sharing so many different amazing stories from so many different women is so needed. And, this is the time that we can get information, at least some of it, in these people's lifetime. And, we can really hear like their stories from the horse's mouth, quite literally. Yep. And I think that's amazing. And what specifically led you to push for a Women's World War II Memorial?
It's a good question. I think it was the school project really that just spiraled into this massive thing. But I think your point about time is one of the main reasons that also continues this push, is that, these women are getting older. 99, 100. I think the oldest living Rosie right now is 108 years old, 109. I think her
Yep.
birthday was recently.
I believe I met her. She was very friendly.
Yes. Oh, they're just amazing. I need whatever routine they have every morning because I want to take it. Yeah,
Maeve
I
was slapping me in Uvalde, like entirely mopping the floor with all of us at 97.
100%.
And she drove a tank so fast that our photographer had to run for almost 2 miles because he thought that she would go slow. Of course she didn't.
Of course not. Of course not. She's a Rosie. She's a Rosie. But I grew up in Washington, D.C., so I've had the privilege of having the National Mall sort of as my backyard, so to speak, and I visited it for years, and I had the opportunity to watch the World War II veterans themselves come off their buses and visit their memorial and sort of reflect on their experiences abroad. And I really would love the women to have that same honor, to have that same, excuse me, place to go and place to see that they too did work that was meaningful and history changing and, you know, spearheaded, not daycare, spearheaded women in the jobs that they're in now in the 21st century. So I think there is so much to this project. It is so much bigger than just me trying to do this. It's all of us and all of the women who've descended from these Rosies. It's a whole collective group, and that's why I think it's so important to preserve, like you said, right from their mouths while we still have the chance to do so.
Absolutely. Like, I know at the Congressional Gold Medal ceremony, like it was like a point I tried to make whenever I could, because I know we were getting pulled in a lot of directions. You especially, May. You guys had like a whole film crew. It was so fun.
It's like parading after her.
For real, it was like I had to like every so often make sure she had water and somewhere to sit down, because she would have stood for all those interviews.
She does. She does. She doesn't let anyone think she's ever tired. She's never tired. She's May.
Yeah, I don't know where she gets her energy, but I'd like to learn that.
Yeah.
But like I remember sitting down because my daughter wasn't able to attend, and I sat down in like the signature portion, and I said, if you had any advice to give to a 9-year-old girl, what advice would you have? And I just like sat down and I wrote it down, and like so many of them had so many different amazing things, and some of them are no longer with us. And I was so very fortunate that I could meet and sit with them, and they all had such different stories.
Yeah.
You know, they had different things that they had to overcome. There was like, you know, totally maybe a different state, a different method and how it was done or what they were doing. Mm-hmm. But this memorial itself, will it just be for Rosies, or will it be for any women that served during World War II?
It's for the civilian women specifically, but in that case, it would also include the women Air Force service pilots who were working for the military, but they didn't receive any of the military benefits or were not covered under the GI Bill. So they would include the WASPs, but there is already a women's military memorial in Virginia. So I don't want to sort of cross or them in any way, but I think 18 million is a pretty hefty number in and of itself. But there were women who served for the military that weren't given the benefits that the men were, and we would love to include them under our umbrella because they also deserve to be seen.
And that's what I thought was really interesting on your webpage. And if anyone is interested, check out www.womenworldwar2memorial.org. And I love that you have like different stories of different women like highlighted and like pictures from their service. Mm-hmm. I just think that's so fun. I'm going to present it now and show everybody.
Absolutely. It's been really fun to hear the stories as well, because they all have such odd bits and bobs in their stories that are just so inspiring. I remember one of the first Rosies I spoke to, and whose story I believe is on our website, she talked about how when she went in to get her job for the first time at the shipyard in Richmond, California, she walked up to the man in the hiring hall and she said, "I'd like a job, please." And the man sort of looked her up and down and said, "Well, we don't take women. Like, who are you?" And I said, "So he turned you down. What did you do?" And she sort of laughed and she's like, "Well, I went back the next day." This is a silly question.
But I've heard some interesting stories about like women like wanting to do things, and they had to either pretend they were a man or like they had to really know the system, but it wasn't easy to do.
No. It was, I think, hard for a lot of companies to accept that the women were coming in, and oftentimes, as May says, doing a better job than the men did. But I think once it started, it sounds like it sort of cycled into, okay, this is what we're doing and this is what's working. But I know also a lot of the women have spoken about, after the war, when the men came back, many of them were just sort of handed a pink slip and said, okay, thank you for
exactly what me says.
Yeah.
Men came home to ticker tape parades, and we came home to the pink slip. I was like, dang.
Yep.
Even decorative.
So we want to take that pink slip back from them and say, throw that away. This is
yeah. What is all of this? Is this is decoration, right? What?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I know that you're doing a lot in DC specifically. Can you tell us a little bit about the Homefront Memorial Act and where it is now?
Yeah. So right now it's the World War II Women's Memorial Location Act is, I think, its official title. And in March 2025 of this year, it was introduced bipartisan in both the House and the Senate. And what it's trying to do is allow us to build in a prominent location. What happened in 2022 was the foundation got a piece of legislation through Congress and signed into law, and it basically allows us to build in what's known as Area 2, or most of DC. But we're working on the second piece of legislation will allow us to sort of hone in on the location and make it a little closer to the World War II Memorial on the National Mall, or in the area that's just surrounding of it, which is called Area 1. Because as we've established, we know these women deserve a place of true honor and true prominence that people will actually go and visit. Millions of tourists come to DC every year to come and learn history and reflect upon it. And the women should be included in that sort of America's front yard, as it's known, the National Mall. So the bill would allow us to have access to those locations. And once it's through, since we're in the process of gathering co-sponsors, but once it's been passed, then we'll be able to select a specific location and build there. So hoping to keep that process as quick as possible, given that, time is of the essence. But it's going well.
I'm excited though. I saw that there was some forward motion recently, and I was like, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say getting legislation through has been a bit of a surprise to me because, I grew up in elementary school listening to Schoolhouse Rock's I'm Just a Bill sitting here on Capitol Hill, and it seemed difficult in the song, but it's so much more difficult in reality.
I was going to say, is there comparison? You're like, this isn't what the cartoon said at all.
Yeah. I mean, in the cartoon, he becomes a law with no sendbacks, no edits. He's just good to go. And, that's not really how it works. I have a wonderful team of people who've helped me navigate the halls of Congress. I have wonderful lawyers, policy advisors, fundraisers, comms team that have really helped me to hone my message, hone the elevator pitch, make this appealing to everybody, which I think it is already, but figuring out how to target specific offices or specific states and bringing in, Boeing is based here, so maybe you're interested because you are a representative of this area. So it's been sort of fun to tie in and weave in all of these different pieces and learn. I've learned so much. It's been yeah.
And I'm excited that that's all happening and it's moving forward. I know that it can be really frustrating doing all that, very expensive and very time focused. So I think that you doing that is, man, I don't know how you guys all have the energy, but I'm here for the support. And so I know that you were doing some of the filming when you were in DC in April for the Congressional Gold Medal last year. But can you tell us a little bit about the V for Victory documentary you're working on?
Yeah, I would love to. This is sort of serendipitous, but few years back, a few is 5 or more at this point, this lovely lady, Tessa Germain, reaches out to me over Instagram through the foundation's Instagram account and says, hey, I'm a filmmaker and I would love to follow this story. I think it's phenomenal what the foundation is doing and I would love to continue to highlight the Rosies. Would you let me film you? I was like, this could be anybody, but for some reason I was like, yeah, come on over. So she flies from California to DC and she stays for several days and she sort of films my life, interviews me and my parents who have been pivotal to this entire project. Without my parents, I'd be nowhere. Thank you guys. And has just decided to follow along and film sort of everything, every part of the process. So they've sort of been following each step as it happens. And I'm supposed to be sending updates via video so they can include it in the final documentary when it's finished. And it'll be finished when the memorial is finished. So who knows when that'll be. I need to send her a video. But they've been a really, really cool support. And it's been great because they've been able to capture moments that I know 10 years down the line I'm going to really want to see again.
Oh yeah, definitely the Congressional Gold Medal ceremony. Like, it felt surreal even being there. I was just like, wow, I'm really watching history happen.
Yeah, truly. That day was so magical to me. I know you feel the same. It was just, so it gave me goosebumps.
It was, I was just truly happy to support out. Something I always teach my daughters, we clap for other people because it's important, you know, and if you never did something, you would want someone to clap for you. So we clap for everyone else. And so I think that that's amazing and very long overdue. And I was just happy to see it. And there were so many film crews. Like, was there like 3 or 5?
4? 3? A lot. So many cameras.
It was like, I didn't know where to look. I was like, you know, I don't know where to look where I'm not going to look weird in all of this. There's B-roll for a reason.
No, they were good. It is always funny to have a camera on you. You're like, what do I do? What do I do
with my hands?
Yeah, I will say having Tessa here for a few days. The first day was really hard because she was kind of just following me around 24/7.
Oh, so the documentary.
Yeah,
I'm going to get coffee now, guys.
Yeah, but it worked. Apparently, she sent me a little bit of footage. I was like, wow, that's what I looked like that long ago.
Oh, but it's cute though because it's like a little time capsule for you.
Yeah. It's funny, I was talking to my mom about this recently, but because I started this project when I was 10, I don't have a full grasp on everything that's occurred and all of the opportunities that these Rosies have had. And now as I'm getting older and more appreciative of every single moment that happens, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have lived through so many amazing historical events for the Rosies. Like, I know we have Rosie the Riveter Day now, the Congressional Gold Medal, you know, the Best Defense Foundation hosted May Crier last year. It's just a great community to be in.
It is truly amazing. And honestly, like, tell us a little bit more about your trip, because I know you went out to Normandy with the Best Defense Foundation last year. I know May had such a great time with everybody. Would they say 3 million people came out to the events in France?
It was insane. It was insane. The people of France and their appreciation of the American veterans who liberated them is unmatched, unprecedented. The energy was just so beautiful. But yes, I was invited to be one of the next generation students is what the program is called. And they invite young students ages, I think 15 to 22, but I might be wrong, to help escort veterans back to their original battlefields so they can reflect and walk the sands of the beaches.
Wow.
Utah Beach, you know, all of them. And it was just to walk the steps of history with them and to honor those that walked before us was just, I can't even describe it. It changed my entire worldview. And May was there and she had a great time. I mean, everybody wanted her signature, wanted to talk to her. They wanted photographs. She might as well have been Taylor Swift. And I don't make that comparison lightly.
No, it is true, because like when May I had made a comment once when I was talking to May, and I said I should really stop having such wild adventures and start behaving and being like everyone else. And she fussed at me and she's like, no, Brandy, you go out there and you give them hell. And I said, yes, ma'am, I'm going to remember you said that.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up with our week together. It was because she's like, I'm going to let you be my manager for a whole week. But I didn't have a clue like how crazy it gets with May. She's like the female version of the Fonz, where she shows up like, hey, and like 50 chicks like just show up out of nowhere. That's exactly what happens. Like she's truly a gem. Like this, I know this was in DC last year, but usually like there's like not a single open seat. Like this is probably like right when they first got there, but yeah, she draws huge crowds and everyone just like loves her, and she gives like the biggest hugs to everybody. And
she can make me feel love in like 2 minutes, the amount that I need for a whole month. She just has that uncanny ability. Yeah. Yeah. That was a great event. That was the 4th of July last year. And it was really, really lovely to see her there. And yeah, she was surrounded by paparazzi the entire time.
The whole time. And now it's like film crews too. It used to just be photographers. Now it's like these film crews. Do I just like awkwardly stand off to the side? I don't want to be in your shot, man.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's amazing that you guys were able to do that. If the Best Defense Foundation ever needs like a veteran to escort other veterans, like let me know.
Yeah. I think they're always looking. You should definitely. I'll put you in contact because they have a great team. Yeah, you'd fit right in.
I just couldn't get over that there was literally 3 million people that showed up. One of my friends was a performer, Scotty Hastings. He was one of the singers at the event. And I was like, did you meet May? And he's like, I couldn't even get close.
Yeah, it was so packed, shoulder to shoulder, of just the most joyous crowd I've ever witnessed in my life. I felt like a celebrity, and it wasn't even about me. I'm just the energy.
It's like so uplifting. And it's something that, I mean, I didn't know exactly what the celebrations would be like. I knew they were going to be big, but I had no idea like so many people from France would come out and watch the event.
Yeah, but it was also the 80th anniversary, so really big deal for the French people. I know I met this couple, they had traveled all the way across the world to be there. I ran into them and said, what brings you here? And they were like, we've been looking forward to this for years, and we finally were able to bite the bullet and come. And I said, how has it been? And they were like, better than we could have ever imagined. So
I love that. Yeah. May said that when she went to give the French president's like wife a hug, she gave her a big kiss, and she's like, I didn't expect it. I was like, you're in Europe, that happens. Yeah, she did. She met Miss Macron like immediately. She went straight to May, and I was like, of course. So sweet. The two of them together. I was taking photos on my phone like, is anyone else seeing this? Because it was just yeah, she's so fun at events. Like I don't know where she has that energy, but she's just fun to watch.
Yeah, she really is. She's in her element. I think that's what it is. She just has this aura, and it just fits it. You know, like some people would be kind of like a wallflower. May is out there, which makes sense, right? She stepped out of the comfort box in the 40s to go and do this crazy job, and so it makes sense that now she's willing to put up with the crowds and put on a smiling face and live it up.
I can't wait to see her in Florida in December. Like I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, that would be so good. She'll be so happy.
Yes, I know. I'm always happy when I see her, but she's always super busy. So like I try to make sure that she's got water, a chair nearby, and you know, like I'll just give like kind of hover just to make like sure. Like I'll still go to like personal assistant mode from like the week that we spent together because I kind of did both sides because I wanted to make sure she was taken care of.
Yeah.
And so what is something that was unexpected that you found during your advocacy, like this whole ride that you've been on, would you say?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really interesting question. I would say it's been interesting to see the variety of different people's responses. So some people, when I share this memorial project, are like, oh my gosh, absolutely. It should be huge and big and right there in the middle of everything. And you can really feel that they're truly believe that. And then there's other people who hear about it and they're like, oh, that's a nice idea. Maybe it could go in like a lobby of a building. And so that's been an interesting dynamic, but I think it tends to be the people who haven't sort of heard of the Rosies or understand their true impact that are like a little more standoffish. But it's been fun to see the people who tell me to shoot for the stars and to keep trekking like May are the ones who really fuel the whole project. And that's been the most surprising, rewarding aspect of it. All of it has been really surprising because I had no idea what to expect. I thought I could go and build the memorial by myself on the National Mall with a little toolkit. I never expected.
You're like, I watched that Saturday cartoon. I think I got this.
I totally got this. What do you mean I need a law passed? So a lot of it's been sort of improvisation, so to speak, and just that, oh, I need to do this now. I'm going to go do this now. Oh, I need to go do this now. I'm going to go do that now. And so I think it's been one of the greatest elementary school projects of my life.
I mean, think about it, like I think I remember my most memorable one was when I had to use like was it like salt dough to make like a steak? Like considering comparing that to what you're doing, like that's definitely apples and grenades. And I think what you're doing is amazing. I
Oh,
mean, think
thank
about it, like
you.
most people wouldn't even stick with a collegiate project. Like I had to do what was it, like a 40-page assessment of like a 3-step drop for as a kinetics basically for like
Yeah,
uh sorry, I can't think today. But
it's
yeah,
okay.
it was for my kinesiology program and we had to study like everything with related to biomechanics. That's why I couldn't talk today.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting to learn that. But like to keep going like 5 years later and you're at 15, that's just really a testament. And like he says, I've advocated for 80 years, and
Mhm.
it just it really is, she really is a testament. And just her, like how she, like when you think like everything's impossible, she'll look at you and she'll be like, we can do it. And you're like, yep, yes ma'am, I'm ready, send me.
Yep, yep. And that's why I think it's obviously the project has ebbed and flowed, and there have been many months where things are not happening, and it's really sort of just sitting there and waiting for movement. Um, but that's May's energy that I like to think I can sort of tune into, borrow, steal for a little bit, and be like, yeah, just keep
Is
going.
that
And
what
we can
was
do
it,
it.
requisitioning?
Yeah, yeah.
But I love that you also have like a portion on your webpage where you can like share like your family member's story, or that
Mhm.
person, if they're still with us, can share their story. And I know I was talking about it before, but one thing that kind of breaks my heart is that so many women that really were Rosies, like they didn't know in their lifetime they were Rosies.
Yep.
It'd be like their family members maybe finding out. And there's so many that they never knew. Like I just, because of what you're doing, I did research into my own family history, and I found out that my grandmother was a Rosie the Riveter. She worked for
Really?
Uniroyal, and they made tires and munitions during the war. And that's like in northern Wisconsin. And I was just like, she never talked about it.
Yeah.
Then she would talk about, like all her adventures in the 50s and in the 20s when she was a flapper. And like, like she had all these stories, but she never talked about it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have that similar um, like issue, maybe or something that they're finding is that they're finding these stories later. But that's why I think it's so much more important that you have this project, because people can submit their stories and they can honor their family members, or that person that did serve can finally see that recognition that was quite long overdue.
Totally. Totally. Absolutely. And I know even May herself said that so many of the women who went into the workforce didn't really think of it as big of a thing as it is now. They were just, supporting their country. They saw the poster that said, hey, we need help. And they stepped up to help because it's just what you did.
Yep.
So to them, their work wasn't this unprecedented, world changing effort. It was just, my country needs me, so I'm going to help my country. Um,
Yep.
so I think it's been really fun to watch the stories trickle in, and the daughters and sons, the Rosebuds and the Rivets, sort of realize that their parents, grandparents, great grandparents did this stuff, and find their stories while they still can. And so if anyone out there does have a story, we do take those. So please send them my way, because obviously I love reading them, and we can post them too and share them.
And do you guys have any upcoming events?
Oh, do we have any upcoming events? Not as of right now, but that is always subject to change. I know
Yeah.
there's some holidays coming up, but yeah, hopefully we'll have some news soon. I have some press that'll ideally be coming out in the next quarter, which will be good, and we'll highlight the foundation. And I'm really excited. I'm always looking for the next thing. Do you know if May has anything? She has December, right? That'll
Yeah,
be
she has a lot of school, like where she's speaking for like the Zooms that she's doing with classes. I know that I don't think that she has any events coming up until December,
Mhm.
as I know it now. But that could change. She says she
Yeah.
only usually does her schedule 3 weeks out.
That's smart. That's really smart. That kind of sounds like me, except it's usually 3 hours out. But I'm working on it. I'm
I
working
try
on
to
it.
operate in that kind of wavelength, but I'm just not that successful.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I was more type A in scheduling regards, but unfortunately not. I guess what I'm working on right now is mostly fundraising. We're working on doing outreach to people who might want to donate. We've had a really great, strong grassroots donations up to this point. So now we're doing a little bit of larger outreach to, the companies that employed the women during the war that are still around, or women-focused companies, and that's been really fun because it's been more research into, who's going to really, really be behind this. So that's my next learning curve, is how to fundraise. But it's been really good. We've had a lot.
We got you down here, Raya. You want to come down? We'll set up another gala. Like, girl, that's what I do. I know a lot of people are wanting to be you.
Thank you. Yeah. You have a really good cohort of wonderful people around you. So
yeah, it's been definitely like herding cats, but at the end of the day, I'm very thankful for the people that are so supportive. And I mean, as much as everyone thinks like, I do this and that, like awesome all the time. No, like I'm very good at failing terribly at things. But eventually I'll make it work somehow. Make it happen.
Yep. I'm really good at failing has to be a quote for me. That's really good. Hey, you gotta fail to learn. So
yeah, literally, like the cigar guillotine that James Hetfield is getting, I literally made 2. The first one didn't end up right where it wouldn't fit on the mount. I remember being so mad I wanted to throw into traffic because I had never like made like a blade that it didn't work. And I mean, I wasn't gonna do it. I was just very angry at the time. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, "Don't throw that at a car. It's been quenched. It'll just bounce off. It's a generational blade now." I was like, "You have a generational like shaving razor? That's what this is." Okay. No one knows what that is either. No one.
Shaving razor?
No, like the first knife that I made, like no one knows where it is. Like it just kind of like disappeared into the shop.
Great. One day you'll find it and be like,
it'll be resurfaced somehow, and I'll be like, I knew it. I have a couple of doing that in there.
But now you won't make the same mistakes you made the first time. So even so, you made it a second time, but it's because you knew how.
I'll just make the mistake the second time with experience. Like that's how it works.
You'll be fine. You'll be good. You'll be good.
And so, is there any way that? Because I know you had touched on it a bit earlier, but how can we support you?
Yeah, so many ways. Obviously, we will take donations via our website, which is on the ticker at the bottom, but also we're collecting stories, and I think that's a really important part that I love to highlight. So anyone with a story, please send it our way, because we love to share it in our email blasts, our Instagram, our Facebook, our website, share it far and wide, and make sure that your grandmother, great-grandmother, whoever she is, her story is told, because, again, time. So those 2 things probably are the most effective. I'm sure at some point we will also have a legislative push where we're asking people to reach out to their representatives and senators. And so I'll keep you apprised of that on all of our channels, and I'll keep you updated as well, Brandy, because you're such a strong supporter and so lovely to help the project.
Well, don't tell anyone I have a reputation to keep. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it is really important, this project. And so again, for everybody that's listening, it's www.womenwwii.memorial.org. Check it out if you are a business that is looking at supporting that way. If you want to maybe do a fundraiser in honor of this amazing nonprofit, definitely reach out to Raya. If anyone has any questions about anything that we've talked about tonight, please let me know, and definitely ask, because of the fact that I know we have had requests for podcasts on alternative medical treatments and about specific other things, which we will do as well. But I really feel it's important to try to support nonprofits that are doing some amazing things. And so I can't wait to see what you're doing, and when you come back on and let us know what's going on. And our podcast will be definitely supporting in any way that we can. So that means we're going to have you come down to Texas, Miss Raya.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be there. Thank you.
And so before we do close up for the night, do you have like maybe a final thought, that maybe it's some advice that you would give to like a kid that's wanting to go out for a project that's very big?
Yeah, I mean, always. I remember I was speaking to a school, and one of the girls said, "What do I do if I want to build a memorial? And what do I do? What do I do with an idea, really?" And I told her to be loud about it. If you have an idea, tell people, share it, believe in it, because if you believe in your idea, other people will begin to as well. And if there are any naysayers, you can put them in a little jar and put them on a shelf because they're not going to be helpful. And really, you are capable of doing just about anything you put your mind to and put your heart to. So do it. You got it. The whole we can do it.
Are we gonna do it what Power Up like May does
we kind of have to, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So before we close out, all right, Power Up. We can do it.
Do it.
All right, guys, it's been a great evening, and we will be following up with you guys next week. Be kind to each other, and we will see you next week.
Hi, I'm Aurelia. Just a reminder, smash like, hit subscribe, and click the bell. Please give me my mommy some hearts. Yay, victories!